How's it going, guys? This is a new tutorial detailing the editing a podcast episode guide dealy. I'm going to try to make this as succinct as possible, so I apologize for the opening already. We're in a shit show as per usual. I've got it narrowed down to a pretty quick time now. Turnaround is pretty sweet, so as long as you follow this, then we should be good. So episode 59 was a remote session. Not all of them are remote, so the first step of this is much easier or non-existent if we record in person, because everyone is already in sync. We don't need to line up anything, but in this instance, you're going to need to know how to do it. So we're going to go and we're going to find where I saved y'all's audio files. So here is Mica and Seth's WAV files. We're going to drag them over. Bam. Easy peasy. I'm going to name this track Seth and this one Mica, respectively. And you guys, since you recorded on the same device, you should be lined up by default. So if I drag you in up against here, then I don't need to worry about syncing you two together. But I'm going to group these tracks to make moving you around and lining up against my track easier. I am track 3, as you can see. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to raise the volume of mine so that I can see where the clap is, and that's the clap. You can tell because it looks very similar to Mica's audio track, and it looks like Mica was the one that did the sync for this one. We're going to zoom in basically as much as we can go. Don't be alarmed that these aren't lined up, because that's just how sound works in a different space. Zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. I'm going to line us up along this midpoint as much as possible, and that should be good. I'm going to lower the audio back down for this. And then I'm going to ungroup Seth and Mica, select everything, bring it on down to the beginning so they line up. I'm going to do something similar on the back end over here. So I usually find a place where we all fade out good, because normally we're like, goodbye. But I want to make sure we're all lined up. This is weird that you guys aren't lined up exactly. I don't know how that's mechanically possible, but we're going to roll with it. So select everything, bring it back. Let's try this. And then do a fade. Let's see what that sounds like.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's good. All right, so we are all in sync and we're all lined up. What we're going to do now is we're going to find a spot on this whole session, a good spot where I can just put a cut in across all the tracks. And I'm going to select each one. And then I'm going to right-click and merge clips together. Why am I doing this? Well, we don't want to destructively edit our audio files. If we ever need to go back and find something in the original file, or we lose track of something gets corrupted, we're always going to have the original files. And creating these merged clips allows me to edit these all and prepare them audio-wise before I start actually getting into the meat of the editing. So once you have all these merged, you're going to see that these merged waves are over here, and they're named as such, so you can select everything that's not merged, and then just close them out. But we're not going to save just yet, because I want to prepare the merged WAV files and then save it to a new location. This will compile all of that stuff in one folder without having the old non-merged files. So we'll do that in the next part. So I have everything merged. Excellent. Now I'm going to go to each individual track, and then I'm going to do a certain order of operations to get them as close sounding to each other as possible. We start with Billy. When we record with the audio interface, it usually does a good job of keeping like everyone at a good level. but still it'll require a little finagling. So the first thing I always do is I go to Effects, Amplitude and Compression, and then Dynamics. There is one exception to this because Mica, we can't do the dynamics for you, otherwise it'll cut out your quietest parts, and we don't want to do that. Make sure you can just pause here and look at these exact settings. The only thing that is going on right now is the auto gate, and I have it set to -57. So basically anything that's quieter than that will automatically just be cut out. That's all this does. So that is the first thing I'll do to Billy's, knowing that it'll be okay. And that's to hopefully eliminate some of the cross audio you'll hear on people's tracks. Now that I've done that, I need to hard limit. So all these peaks that go above the normal basic audio range, you can see that this is generally his like normal speaking voice, and then maybe there's a clap or a wild squeal that Billy is wont to do. Then we basically want to make it so that it doesn't disturb people's ears. As a rule of thumb, I like to keep everything like speaking volume, all of that. I'm going to raise this audio by moving this knob. I'm going to try and get all the bass audio up to -6. Or as close as possible. So you can generally see that most of this stuff is floating around -6. Go to Effects, Amplitude and Compression, Hard Limiter, and you can keep these settings if you want. As long as you do it the first time, then you don't have to do it ever again. It'll save -6 and all this other bullshit. So make sure this is exactly how you see it, and then apply. And then you will see that Billy's audio is all shortened down. Like there's no peaks that go over each other. They all peak at the same place. The final thing I'll do to prep his file is I'll go to Favorites, normalize to -3 dB. Don't ask me why. I think it just sounds better. It's easier to balance with everyone by doing this. And then I will save his WAV file. Then you're going to do the same exact thing for everyone else. You'll have to raise the audio slightly differently. You'll notice that Lindsay's track is less like all over the place. For some reason, she talks as loud across the board without really deviating all that much. So with her, we're going to do Amplitude and Compression, Dynamics. This saves the settings. So then I do that. Then I'm going to raise her up so she's around -6 across the board. That looks pretty good. Amplitude and Compression, Hard Limiter, saves the settings, apply, and then Favorites, normalize to -3, then save. And then we'll do that for everyone except Mica. So this is Mica's track. As you can see, it's quiet. And all these spots right here,
them kind of arguing.
That's Seth. And if we were going to try and remove that, like beforehand, it'll cut out Mica. We can't do dynamics. We just have to raise her audio levels. And usually it takes at least once to do that. Then I'm going to do it again. And if you're looking at this, you already see a problem here. Like Seth is loud on Mica's tracks. So the bad news is that when we get to actually editing, it's just an ongoing thing. We're just going to have to always cut out Seth from Mica's audio files, like on the editing process, which is a little time consuming, but also you get into a groove. So that's just the reality. But if you do it a lot, you get into the swing of it, and then you'll see on the whole thing where Seth is speaking on Mica's tracks, so you can actually start working ahead and just cut it out like ahead of time. But we'll get into that. So now she's basically at -6. So like with everyone else, we're going to hard limit. Okay. Now Seth and mine will be very similar. We'll do the dynamics, and then we'll do the hard limiter, and then we will do the normalize, and then we'll save. And once I'm done with that, we will get to the next part. All right, so now we're back at the main session file, you can see that everyone's tracks are much more in line with each other across the board, which is excellent. We don't have to do much balancing other than that, but just to be safe, we're going to do the speech volume leveler. And I do have another tutorial based around that, but I'm going to keep it short on this one. I'm not even 100% sure that it works, but I'm going to do it just in case to eliminate some of that drift. So I'm going to select each track, and I'm on the effects rack here, and we want to make sure it's set to track effects, not clip effects. Then we're going to go down to SVLD20. Hopefully you have this preset saved. If not, then I can show you the speech volume leveler settings that I have. So shoot for these. And then make sure you save a preset. And then it'll save in your effects rack presets. But yeah, feel free to pause the video and set your SVL like that. But yeah, I'm going to take each track and I'm going to do speech volume leveler. And the reason why we do it as track effects is that it doesn't destructively change the WAV file itself. Now that we've finally done that, everything is prepped and ready to go for the actual editing. We need to save this in a new location. This is a naming convention I use. And I have a spot on my desktop where D20 Syndicate is saved. You can save them any way you want as long as you know where they're at. I make a new folder in working episodes. You can see the past one there. I will name it appropriately. And boom. All this I will keep the same. Click OK. And now it's compiling just the merged WAV files into that folder. Now we can get into the nitty-gritty of it. Okay, so editing. It's been a while, so let's go over this. What you want to do is eliminate any lingering ums or long pauses. Certain people are worse than others at saying ums, which is totally fine. I'm even doing it during this tutorial. We just want to try and make sure we avoid them for the listener. I realize that if we're going to stream, then the ums are going to be unavoidable, but since this is going to be audio only and some people aren't going to be watching the stream, I want them to have like a premium listening experience. So eliminating ums, eliminating long, I don't know what I want to do next sort of dialogue, or me bitching about rules about a certain thing, any little mini arguments that aren't like funny and they just sound like kind of mean or salty. Get rid of any of that, any offensive, like overly offensive language. I mean, we've talked about this a lot as far as what we want to avoid. Just keep that in mind. Things to look out for: if somebody is away from the microphone, they might sound very quiet. And if you want to keep their commentary in, you're going to need to go to their individual track. This isn't an accurate example, but say Billy whispered something here and you want to hear what he says, you're going to have to bring that up so it's like in line with some of this other dialogue. That way it's easier for people to hear. A big offender of this is Lindsay, because she'll like to whisper something like, "Oh, that's cool." She'll say it quietly. If we want people to hear her reactions, and we have to go in and then manually raise her up. Or you could just delete them out as necessary if you don't think it adds anything. Just be, judicious. And I trust you guys as far as what we want to keep in. And then, long pauses. If something is too long, then you can make a cut everywhere and then select everything and bring it in and have it fade and stuff. If you need assistance with any of that, I can tell you how to do it again. But once you get into the swing of things, it'll be pretty easy to get in your flow again. So this is what I'm talking about with Mica's track. You can tell that Seth is loud on her tracks. And there's instances like this where you're like, oh, maybe she might be speaking during these. But you can also see, like, anytime Seth is talking, it'll line up pretty much perfectly, and you can see where his parts are. So you should be able to just almost without listening. I do it without listening, and I can just come in and edit these out as I go. I'm like, set the speaking there. This might be a dice roll. Let's see.
I don't know. Am I?
Yeah. Nope, it's just a random sound. So, yeah, there's instances where you need to stop and be like, whoa, what is that? That doesn't look like it makes sense. And then we'll listen to this. I can't cover you there.
I can't defend you on that.
Yeah.
Okay, instead
You're a
of
damn fool. Okay, so Mica didn't actually say anything there.
after that, in this,
So you can edit her out this way as you're going through the episode. You just got to make sure that you don't accidentally drag something out of alignment. But that's a good thing about how I made this easier on you. If you follow these instructions, say when editing Mica, I accidentally pushed her over a little bit and something will sound out of whack later. You can come up here. You can see that she is not lined up now, but you can use this magnet and this will snap these files together. So then if I come back here, boom, it'll be lined up again. And that is only useful if you've already had them lined up at the end. Otherwise, you're not going to be lining up to anything. That's the long and short of editing, really. Just know what to cut out, when to raise someone's individual audio a little bit, when. That'll be for everybody, because sometimes some of the DM's NPCs speak a little quieter than his normal DM voice. So you're going to have to select those parts and then raise them up. It's all just a little balancing act, but you want to keep everything around this height each when we're talking. You don't got to be crazy about it. Whatever sounds natural. And once you've edited the whole episode down, we will move on to the next part. So another little thing of note on Michaela's track is that if there is like AC going on or background noise, her microphone is very sensitive and picks that shit up. So you're going to want to, like, here, we can hear this real quick.
so if it happened this week,
So you can hear some background noise, and it's really prevalent if you solo her track. We're going to want to try and get rid of that. So if you double click on her track, you can definitely see there's audio right here. So if you highlight that, go down to Effect, Noise Reduction, Capture Noise Print, and then you'll select the whole audio track now, and then go to Effect, Noise Reduction, Process, and then just copy all of these settings. This is what you'll do this after you've balanced everyone's audio together. Save these specific settings, because if you do anything different from this, it'll start to distort Mica's audio. And it still might, even as is, but we just want to remove that background noise. It's really distracting if we leave it in. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. Make sure you save this setting too. And click apply. And you'll see it's much smaller now. And if we play it back, there's almost no sound. So then we can save it, go back here, then listen.
so if it happened this week, like today, I mean, I guess.
So now her background noise is gone. One thing I'll also bring up is that if you hear echo from like Billy's track, like if we're in person, I always just try and do what I do with Mica's track, but I do it for everybody. Basically, if one of us isn't talking, if only one of us is talking, I just have that one person's audio there. It's just the best way to ensure that you don't hear any extra sound. All right, so at this point, you should have an edited episode. You can see how many cuts I normally do. It's quite a lot, but, you know, episode is edited now. I have a little bit of funny here right after the episode ends. I place markers in several places to let you guys know when music should go in and not. The next step involves preparing it for export. So, title. I always try and think of something punny to do that's related to what happens in the episode. Let's just give an example right now. So this is the episode where Gil talks his way and then steals a boat. Just for now, just as an example, let's just call this relationship issues. But I mean, if you ever want to discuss like a possible episode title, just send it to the group chat and then we could just discuss as a group if you feel uncomfortable naming it. I fill out this data that automatically populates. D20 Syndicate. Watch as I fucking can't spell. Into the Yonder Void is the album. I create a summary that you guys usually use, so you're totally welcome to use that. If you need help writing something, reach out. Today's episode, Shane lends a hand to the cause. You want to be kind of vague so you don't spoil anything too much. Genre, I always put at comedy. Track number, I name this the episode number, and then I leave everything else pretty much the same. Then I'll save it. All right, now that you've filled all this out, it's time to export. Mix down entire session. I name it the episode name. Then I save it in an appropriate location. So for you, this is going to be different because the way we're doing it now, we're going to be editing the episodes in full again. But since I am sending this to you guys to add music to, then I usually save it in final episodes. And all this default stuff should be okay. Wave PCM, stick close attention to these, make sure they're the same, and then click OK. Then it'll take a couple seconds to get you your episode. Once the episode exports, it usually populates in this bin over here. I select everything except for that episode, and then I close selected files. This is the finished episode, but now we need to do the old effects rack on it. Hopefully you have the effects rack save already, so you don't have to worry about this part, but in case you don't, here we go again. We have multiband compressor. Make sure all of these settings are the same. Make sure you look in multiple places to make sure these are all where you want them to be. You can pause it. The next one we have is the de-esser. Make sure you copy all of these effects, all these numbers, make sure those are all the same. Dynamics processing. This one's a pain in the ass. So you have to add these points and adjust them until they're about like that. Feel free to look at this. I mean, changing these might actually give you what you want. I'm not sure. It's been a really long time since I've fucked with this. Then there's parametric equalizer. Make sure you follow all of these settings. Then there's the hard limiter. And then you can follow all these settings. And then obviously save your preset for your effects rack. And then you never have to worry about it again. After you have the episode ready to go, click apply. Then watch the magic happens as everything shrinks down, shaves off the excess, and makes it all sound nice and purty. All right, now you see you have a completed episode. Sans music. Now you save it again, and then you can immediately go in to create a new multi-track session and then change it to dialogue and then add the music as you normally do. From there, you guys should know everything you need to know. One thing I just want to remind you all about is that when you are complete, when you're done all the way with the audio and the adding the music, you'll take your final wave file and then you'll do match loudness to it. And you should be able to use these exact settings to do with that. You drag it in here and then you'll click run and then it'll take a while. I think I included that in your video. So that doesn't change. Once you're done, then we can get to exporting. If you need any help in regards to exporting, please let me know and then I'll sit down with you guys and then walk you through it. I don't think we need to do a video for that. All right, we've come to the final part of our video. This is a part where you will post to social platforms once you've exported the video and uploaded it to Libsyn. You guys should be pros at that by now, so I'm not going to go over that, but I am going to go over the social media posting. And to do that, to schedule your social media posts, you go here to this little heart, social destinations, and then you'll have this calendar on your given month, and you can schedule these out as like late ahead as you want. But say we have a new episode coming out on the 8th, which is a Thursday, you can just click on this number here, and then there's a list of where your scheduled posts will show up. But then to just add a new one, you go to this plus sign, and then you'll choose a destination. We don't publish to LinkedIn, we just publish to Facebook and Twitter. So you'll start with Facebook and choose the correct publishing time. We publish our episodes every Thursday at 9 a.m. So make sure you change this to 9 a.m. and then choose the correct day. And then in the message, you'll just post the summary of the whatever episode you're posting from. So just pretend that that's there, that little in today's episode blurb. And then you'll choose the episode that you're going to be posting. And then you're going to you're going to find the image that is appropriate for what you're posting to. And these are saved in the downloads folder. I have it saved FB for Facebook and then Twitter for Twitter. These are scaled to a very specific size that is good for those platforms. So you'll just choose the Facebook one for this. There, it's uploaded. And then you'll link to the custom URL just like on the episode. And then you'll go to use this URL. That's all it takes to publish. And then you'll click save. Okay, it's not going to let me save without a message. So you can, this is just an example. So we can put that. Then you click save. And then you'll see that it's here at the 9 a.m. scheduled time. And then this will automatically post a Facebook post at this time. But I'm just going to delete this example. Okay, same thing with Twitter. Publish date, the same thing, 9 a.m. And then post your message. But on Twitter, I also like to include hashtags. There is a character limit, though. But if you have room for hashtags, I put things like D&D, D&D 5e, D&D podcast. That doesn't even say 5e, but you get the idea. D&D podcast. Anything that you think is relevant to the episode, feel free to hashtag. And then do the same thing. Choose the episode. Use your Twitter image this time. And then link to the custom URL. And that is how you post. And you'll see that this one is slightly different color. It's the Twitter color. But if you were to go back to the main calendar, you can see it on here. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. And always let me know if you have any questions. I appreciate your help. Bye.